All right. Well, in Halitics, I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking today. It is a Monday, and so glad to be talking to Carlos Childs, writer activist. Let me get that entire writer activist there for you, Carlos. And now I think we can start. Well, maybe I'm a little jumping the gun here, and don't mean to embarrass you, but maybe we'll put podcaster. We'll put another slash after activist and add podcaster one of these days.
Soon to come. Soon to come. Definitely. What's up, Hal? So glad to be here.
Well, I really wanted to talk to you, and I'm glad you could make it today because I've been going through a rough time. I got to tell you, the whole situation surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I think that's a fair term to use. Certainly he was murdered. And the response by especially the conservative movement, righties, very troubling to me. And also my own reaction. I mentioned that I posted a very provocative take that was immediately very hard slam, got a very hard slam from Halitics, conservatives and right wing or right. I won't say right wing. I'll say right leaning posters. And I have to say, they had a point. I was unduly provocative. It was the wrong place to post. It was insensitive. I've apologized for it. I've also just deleted it. So all that said, Carlos, you may share some of my sentiments about Kirk, but can we grow from this? Can we do anything? Can we do positive? Can something positive come out of this crime?
How the first thing that I was going to say, I'm not going to say it because it was gonna just inflame the situation more. No, I don't see too much positive coming out of it. I think that, look, I'm not going to defend Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to talk well about Charlie Kirk personally. To me, Charlie Kirk was a white nationalist / supremacist. I mean, it's always bad that someone gets killed. In the words of Malcolm X, sometimes your chickens come home to roost. And to me, that's what happened to Charlie Kirk as well. And I find it almost a little hypocritical for people who are followers of Charlie Kirk or friends of Charlie Kirk or in that mindset to kind of talk about how horrible it is that you have people who aren't giving their thoughts and prayers and their well wishes and all that. I mean, these are the same people who, if someone on the left was killed the same way that Charlie Kirk was, they would be saying this is what happens when the left tries to make our country socialist and all that other stuff. And I mean, on top of that, Charlie Kirk is someone who has said that empathy isn't a good thing to have. So to me, it's hard for me to empathize with someone who, one, wouldn't even see people like me as his equal, but two, I don't have empathy for him or his family. It's bad that what happened. Okay.
Yeah, I think what bothered me most was this outpouring of love, affection, compassion totally at the same time, juxtaposed with just outright anger, resentment, hate. They were together, this sentimentalizing Kirk. And I'm not going to speak particularly ill of him, but I'm going to say I'm going to try not to use adjectives because I'm really working hard on just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, as Sergeant Joe Friday used to say on Dragnet, which is probably your great-grandparents' time, Carlos. Carlos is so young compared to me. By the way, I want to just also say I love your new studio look. I mean, you really jump out at us before you kind of fade into the background. And
I know,
the
right?
new lighting and everything else really works. So
awesome. Thank you.
Well done.
I always say I used to have the hostage look to the back. Like I should have a newspaper say, please, like, set me free.
Yeah, it was. You kind of faded into the background a little bit in some of our previous videos. Also, want to say that a lot of praise. I asked some people, hey, what do you think about Carlos? How does he do? Oh, he's really good. You guys are a good team together. And that's how I feel. Good chemistry, works well together. Too. Also, different demos, right? Like Carlos and I are like an old white guy and an older white guy. So you're like bringing youth. You're bringing a different, vibe, different
perspective, different attitude, and also we kind of check each other too on different spectrums of the left too. So I love it.
Well, here's where I will say I really want, my whole thing, and in fact, when we're going to talk about Gaza, because I always start with Gaza, but I wanted to say what I really want, what bothered me about all of that support for Kirk is I viewed him view him as having been a divisive force. And I'm good with division. I'm good when you divide working class people from billionaire leadership. I want blue collar voters to recognize people like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer as not on their side and to reject their policies and embrace people like Zoran. That's what I want. So I'm not opposed to division along class lines. Where I have a problem is division within classes, division between black and white people, between Latinos and African Americans, between working class people and poorer people. That's where I have a problem. And I feel like that is what Charlie Kirk's stock in trade was. That's how he made a pile, was by pitting these young students, mostly white men. I mean, that's just the fact, the demographic, telling them that the problems that they face were basically due to other groups that in many cases were even worse off than they were. Immigrants, trans people, gay. He was not a fan of gay marriage, for example. I think he was opposed to that. So I think that to me is what bothered me. He was not a person who tried to unite people for a better life. He tried to divide people for his own, to benefit himself. And that really upset me. That's the whole reason he bothered me. I was upset and still upset that, there's these days for him, right? And we're lowering flags. Your thoughts?
It's weird that we're lowering flags, because I feel like even if we take the name of Charlie Kirk out of it, people die every day and we're not lowering the flags for them. To me, it kind of shows what kind of, I'm going to leave regular people out of it and try to put more elected officials in it. It shows what kind of elected official you are if you want a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, if you want to lower the flag for Charlie Kirk. It shows that not only are you saying, oh, it's bad that just a human being died in this country, what you're really saying is, I'm sad that someone of that ideology was killed, which I feel like if you're celebrating their or his ideology, that means that you are against me as a person and my own ideology too. You're right. Charlie Kirk was not trying to build some working class solidarity movement or anything. Charlie Kirk's main thing was making sure that white people stay at a certain status within this country and saw everyone else doing better as directly adversarial to that project. Again, I have nothing nice to say about Charlie Kirk. I've listened to a few different podcasters who've been talking about how this man ties to Israel or so, of saying that there was recent commentary from Charlie Kirk being anti Israel and kind of rejecting some of the money that he was being offered from Netanyahu and those other players and stuff. So I wonder what's going to come out of that, if that comes out into something. But personally, I don't really. It may even sound mean. I don't really care about what happened to Charlie Kirk. It was like Tuesday.
Well, you mentioned Israel, and it's very interesting that I put this up, the latest news from Gaza and how terrible it just continues to only worsen. 64,900 killed now, 145 children. This is the official count. And again, we always preface with the notice that the real death number is almost certainly much, much higher. There's starvation. It's just absolutely horrific. I'll give the square I always put up right now. We have 100. It was actually not. I mean, it's obviously relative, but the weekend wasn't even as bloody as some of the previous ones, with only, in quotes, 149 identified killed over the weekend. We're close to 65,000 now. And then we have 12,350 since Trump took office and made it clear he supported the actions, the genocide that Harris Biden had also supported. So, and in fact, made it, probably it's even worse under Trump, although it's unclear. We don't know that. So I don't want to be clear. I don't want to say that with any definitiveness. Interesting what you said. I've heard this before. There was some thought that maybe Kirk was going to break with Israel, and he might have been targeted for that reason because he's so influential. I think we heard that maybe on Revolutionary not Revolutionary Blackout, but Revolutionary Change with Jen Perlman and Peter Hager. You mentioned Sabi. I know that that's been going around. The problem I have with that theory, twofold. One, his recent statements were really very pro-Israel. He's denied there's even a Palestinian people, saying the region is called Judea and Samaria, not Palestine.
You're not helping his case here for us mourning him.
and then his being shot by this, it seems by all accounts, a local, relatively local Utah-in who doesn't seem to have any ties to Israel. He was a Mormon. He was maybe a gamer. We've got a clip from the governor of Utah. So I unless more comes out, I'm not accepting the theory that Kirk was breaking with Israel and that's why he was killed. More intriguing to me is the opposite. He was too pro-Israel and maybe followers of Nick Fuentes, who is even further to the right in many ways, more of a Christian nationalist, very critical of the support for Israel, which actually he got that one right. He said that Kirk can't call himself a Christian when he supports the genocide of 2 million people.
Wow.
So.
Well, 1 point for Nick Fuentes. One, I never thought I'd be able to say that in my life. But you know what, Hal, even to your kind of point that you made earlier about Charlie Kirk, or not even about Charlie Kirk, about this being a white shooter, it happening in the state of Utah. One thing that kind of is really eye-opening too is that Trump has been doing these kind of like, we're going to take over these dangerous cities and stop all this murder and everything. If we really look, the whole thing about the federal officers that went to DC, that really was kind of sparked after the guy got killed
Big
in
Balls.
DC. Yeah, the Big Balls guy.
I don't think he was killed, right? He was seriously injured. He wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't murdered.
Okay. Who was seriously beaten? That's how that happened. We saw Charlie Kirk get killed on television, all that. I haven't heard anything about, hey, we need to bring the federal troops out into Utah to keep safe, to keep safety and all that. We've heard Charlie Kirk talk about how it seems that black people committing crimes, it seems to be something that's just inherently us. I think, should we use Charlie Kirk's words and say, fine, it seems like white people are just inherently into shooting others people. Maybe we should start looking at to me, we could call this white on a white crime and say, okay, let's chalk it up to that. But then if you say that, it seems like there are implications to it that the right isn't willing to understand. It goes both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think as on the left, what my message is, we need to figure out how to reduce crime, period. Because there are white victims of crime, there are black victims of crime, there are Latino victims of crime, there are Asian. We all know this. There are women victims of crime, there are men, there are children. All of us walk around with some level of trepidation because there's so many guns, so much, but it's not even just the guns. I always used to say it's the guns, which is a big part of it, but there's so much anger. The people are so filled with hate in a way. And it's, and my guilt is I helped contribute to that atmosphere. I feel like my posts, I know you're like, Cal, stop wearing the hair shirt and blah, blah. But no, I really, feel like there's ways we can bring people together even now. That's why the topic of today's program is, can Zoran and Bernie save us? And I'm very skeptical. I'm not saying they can, but if they really, really want to and they really fight to, I believe there's a real good chance. I'm not sure they will. I want to go to this video. This is the governor of Utah. I think it's gotten a little bit been overpraised for his reaction. He has been, I think, divisive. This goes to the revelation to date from the FBI, and I want your take. I'll just play it, and then I'll get your take first.
Cool. Update us on the investigation. What more have investigators learned about the suspect and the motive here?
Yeah, so there will be much more coming out on Tuesday when charges are filed. They are gathering evidence, interviewing known friends, people around the suspect. What we know so far, there are a couple things that we can confirm that have been reported. We can confirm that again, according to family and people that we're interviewing, he does come from a conservative family, but his ideology was very different than his family, and so that's part of it. We do know that the roommate that we had originally talked about, we can confirm that roommate is a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. So we know that piece. I will say that person has been very cooperative with authorities, and we have additional evidence, forensic evidence that has been processed. We'll be sharing that when charges are filed on Tuesday. So everything that we know confirms that this is the person.
Okay, so that's what the governor has said. And I played the whole remarks. I mean, I'm not, I really want you to react to that, and then I'll respond.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I am less of the type of person who will take someone's sexuality, transgenderism, all that into account when it comes to a shooting, because I feel like that makes up such a small percentage of the actual shooters. I will say that I think that it's a chance it could be someone who just felt that Charlie Kirk's rhetoric and what he does is detrimental to their lives too, because if you look at Charlie Kirk's following on college campuses, I think that you can kind of speculate that in the area he grew up in, that's probably a lot of people who agree with his type of rhetoric, which could kind of influence how he goes about his day-to-day life, how his alleged partner goes about their day-to-day life. So Charlie Kirk could kind of be a combination of all that. But one thing that wasn't in this remarks, but I saw it in the previous remarks that the governor of Utah made around how he kind of had to throw Black Lives Matter under the bus, talking about how at least we can say here in Utah we didn't have any riots and everything. It's like, well, one, this was a person, just a regular civilian who killed another regular civilian. This wasn't in how it's been happening around Black Lives Matter, the actual government and police killing.
Well, and let me stop you for a sec. As far as I know, with regard to Black Lives Matter, I did not do a lot of research. I'm not aware of any. Am I wrong about this? That any Black Lives Matter protesters, did they kill anybody? Were there any? Maybe there was there something in Oshkosh, Wisconsin? I know there was a right-wing shooter, right? There was a guy who started shooting there who felt he was under attack. I was not aware, but I'll do a little research. But, the argument that the left is so violent, and I'm not even, Black Lives Matter wasn't even necessarily from the left, but to the extent that it is, I'm not aware of that.
No, Black Lives Matter wasn't directly attributed to the left. I guess you could say the overall thought of police reform is a left idea. I mean, honestly, it's not even like a leftist thing. It's more just like a I don't know, center left type of idea. Black Lives Matter, to my knowledge, never explicitly called for any type of specific police reform or legal justice either. They call for some things as far as holding police accountable, but it was more like broad, not very specific, so you can key it on the left or right and stuff like that. But also, we have to look, if the police were the ones who killed Charlie Kirk, the right would have protested. The right would have been burning down the state of Utah. They would have been up in arms and angry. I feel like this was white on. This was the definition of technically white on white crime. Even though me as somebody, I don't even think white on white crime or black on black crime or any race on another race crime is a real thing. But hey, this is what Charlie Kirk messages. Charlie Kirk said the Second Amendment is something that basically we should be okay with these shootings because, hey, you get your Second Amendment right, so you're going to have some stuff mess up sometimes. So again, I can't have empathy really for someone who never showed any level of empathy for others as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to be better than the people who don't show empathy. You know, I think that, and I also would say one of the reasons that we should try to be better is because that's how we can also bring people to our side, right? We can say, hey, you know what? A famous story, I don't know if it's that famous, a story I'm familiar with, I assume it's true. Mm-hmm. During the beer hall putsch in Germany, when Hitler tried to take over the government in Munich, there was the police, there was firing. There were shots fired by the police at the Nazis in the street. And apparently, I believe Hermann Goering was hit, the number 2 at that time. Hitler was in the back. Hitler was really a coward, although he was decorated during World War I. But so he must have done. But apparently he was a good soldier in the First War. But Goering was hit. Goering had been a pilot, and he was carried to a nearby home, and he was treated by a Jewish doctor who apparently removed the bullet. This is in the book Der Führer by Conrad Hayden. And the doctor almost certainly must have known that this guy was part of this rabidly anti-Semitic group. Mm-hmm. But the doctor saved his, removed the bullet and treated and wounded him. And apparently one of the SA men, the thugs that were with the Nazis, saw the compassion that the Jewish doctor showed to this Nazi leader, and he left the movement. He said, "Nah, this is bullshit. I'm not going to be part of this." So I think that when you show, you treat others who don't view you as fully human, you treat them as, fully human, sometimes you may bring people to your side.
Yeah, I get that. I can't. It's hard for me to subscribe to that. Well, I'll say this. That has been historically the way things work, because even you look at Fred Hampton, his work before he got killed by the police. He worked with other groups and even some kind of people who supported the Confederacy. He worked with them, and then I think there was one group he worked with, and then over time they wind up removing the Confederate flag from their symbols and stuff, just because they're a close relationship with the Black Panthers. I'll say this. The one thing that I kind of hate the most is that we always see that type of rhetoric work when it is towards a minority group, towards white people. There is always this push of, hey, Black person, brown person, LGBTQ person, whoever, treat these white people who have had so much animosity and hatred and dehumanization for you, treat them as human and see their humanity and try to convince them to be on your side. When you look at how white people act towards other groups, it is, I will keep hating you and treating you wrong until you prove to me that you're a human being. I feel like this. At what point do we look at white people and say, we see what you're doing to us, so you prove to us first that you deserve to be kind of treated with the level of empathy that we never see from you.
So Carlos, I'm going to make, it sounds to me like you're pretty angry, like the language that you're using. I mean, you're always smiling. You have always struck me as a happy-go-lucky guy. And when we've been together, I don't see that anger. And even in your face and in your tone, it's not there. But the words themselves, I'm hearing a lot of anger. Definitely. At what, the right, Christian nationalists, nationalists, and what do you want to do with that anger? Like what do you think either you or we or African Americans, people of color, Black people, what should be done to address the causes of your anger?
Yeah, I think that one, I just off the jump, I think one, I would love it if us just as Black people came together and had the same level of, not rhetoric, but same level of presence that a Charlie Kirk did when it came to the right. There were many people listening to the vile things Charlie Kirk said. He had a huge following. No one, whether you agree with what he said or disagree with it, he had a huge following. I would love for Black creators and content creators and public speakers not to be on that same rhetoric of like hatefulness and all that, but just the issues and plight of Black people be to that level within, I would say within the Democratic Party. Really don't care about the Democratic Party as a whole, but just within society. And I want the same level of kind of compassion that the right is telling us we need to have for Charlie Kirk, for them to also realize their own hypocrisy in this as well. Personally, I don't know how we fix it, because I think that the only way to fix it is, again, having these kind of multi-racial coalitions come together. I think we need we're going to need white people to speak to other white people and tell them that hey, what Charlie Kirk, his whole message was wrong, but also how the only way white working class people are going to progress is if they find solidarity with the Black working class and brown and other minority groups too. I just don't know who's the right person to do that messaging. I don't have the like energy, mental capacity, or just overall frustration in my life to deal with that. But it has to be someone, and I just don't know how it moves forward.
All right, let me respond to that in a couple of ways, because I've had a lot of thoughts. One, in terms of Black content creators, there are a number who are popular, and I'm not going to talk about people like Sabby or Revolutionary Blackout Network, who are pretty far to the left, like we are. I'm thinking of the Breakfast Club. They've got a huge. I think they got millions, right? I don't know exactly how many, but
it's not good. It's more that is like corporatized media at this point. I mean, the Breakfast Club recently brought on Ben Shapiro to basically tell them why the genocide isn't happening and why reparations is bad for Black people. And Charlemagne the God doesn't really push back. There's a lack of independent Black media. And I'll say even in the Black circles as like a community, a lot of Black people used to be very to the left, and we see now white people have been more to the left. You look at the New York primary, Black people are still the main supporters of Andrew Cuomo, and every other group is supporting Zoran
Isn't
Mamdani.
So that fact, and let me show, before we get to Zoran, because that's where we're going to go. Because again, what little hope I have, Carlos, is with Zoran, and to a much lesser extent, Bernie. But I did want to just, I have to say, I was surprised. I was surprised at this. So Breakfast Club Power, that is the program with Charlemagne the God, which, by the way, don't you find that like clownish, honestly? Am I wrong to say that? Because I think that's a turnoff. I don't care what color you are. Don't call yourself a god. I mean, I don't know. It's
never been a big deal to me. It's more, I see it similar to how like Kanye West was trying to call himself Yeezus for like a while. I see it as, okay, cool. I see your like ego is huge, and that's all I see out of it.
Yeah, I don't love that. But anyway, and I don't really like the show, but it's not, it's because it's centrist. It's corporate. Centrist. No question. They had on Angela Rye there to tear Jill Stein a new one when she was on. But look at those numbers, Carlos. 5.93 million subscribers.
But I will also say this. The Breakfast Club is not a political morning show. It's not. It is a hip-hop, pop culture morning show that within its limited capacity through mostly Charlemagne is allowed to talk about politics in a very centrist, in a very neoliberal corporatist way. I honestly think that there needs to be more of this is kind of off the question that you asked, but I do think within media, there needs to be more of a independent mindset when it comes to media.
Do you think that if you went to, and this is, I haven't heard this because this is part of the issue for me, but is there anyone who's presenting an overtly, well, there is. Okay, so I'm babbling a little bit. By the way, don't forget, click like, click subscribe. Already did the subscribe video. Do all of that. Comments, we love them. Any positive, negative, doesn't matter. Shama Sawant. She really has embraced a explicit class-based message. She is always talking. She does not support reparations in her campaign. She focuses, except for specific communities that have been harmed. One of the big issues that I think really got Charlie Kirk a big audience was he was always making fun of DEI. He was always attacking it, always criticizing it. And it was mean-spirited. It was disingenuous at best, dishonest, I think, accurately, so to say it accurately. But there's resentment. There's a lot of resentment between whites and blacks both ways. And I think one way, just going to present this, we'll probably disagree, but you check me on this. One way you address that is you have explicitly leftist leaders who go to these campuses and say, look, you deserve health care. You shouldn't have to be, your tuition at this school, even it's a state school, University of Utah, it's $20,000 a year. It shouldn't be. You should be able to go for a couple $100, maybe not free, a couple $100. You work, you get paid a good salary. Your healthcare is taken care of, period. Doesn't matter whether you lose your job, you still have it. You're going to have a home. We're going to make sure as a government that everyone has a safe, secure roof over their heads. I think if you went to these campuses and you made that argument, you'd have a you'd have a lot of people who would follow you, who would say, yeah, I'm with you. Maybe not, because I think Kirk was talking to people who really do feel insecure and have some legitimate reasons to feel that way. Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree that we should have more people who are willing to support universal health care. We should have more people who are willing to support free public college and universities. We should have more people willing to support ending subsidies on fossil fuel companies. Like we should support a actually economic leftist agenda. I think and I can only speak for myself as a black person, but I'll say for myself as a black person, I think where I see some fault in doing that comes to the implementation part. And it's only because of how history has shown us when we have these universal programs. A lot of times you have this working class solidarity behind it until it goes to implement it. And then it's like, you have a lot of white people who say, well, once we got our stake out of it, y'all are kind of up to your own. If you can get your stake out of it, you can. If you can't, oh well, to you. And I think that there just needs to be a solidarity campaign of different people from different coalitions saying this is what we want: universal healthcare without any limitations on it, and we're all going to fight together until we get it. I just want to know, how do you bring all those factions together? Because I believe that can happen. I just think it's certain factions that are probably going to have to be left out, because me personally, I can't see me working with a racist, out front racist, white nationalist person, because it's hard for me to have a conversation with you when you honestly don't see me as on the same level of human as you.
So that's really interesting. And I want to respond to that first by saying, I could work with Nick Fuentes, and I believe he is a Jew hater. People have said he really doesn't like Jews. I'm Jewish. I'll work with him to stop the genocide. I don't get if his motive is because he hates Israel because it's the Jewish state, and he hates Israel because they're Jewish people there. But he will work with me to stop funding Israel in every possible way. I'm good with that. I would do that because that evil needs to be stopped. And I think stopping that evil would actually ultimately reduce the incidence of anti-Semitism.
I never thought of it in that term. I'll say this.
But
I agree with you to a point.
But if in terms of what racists are supporting universal health care, the racists don't support universal health care. They're totally against it.
No, you're right. I mean, there was a famous saying by what's his name, Lyndon B. Johnson, who he was actually going to propose a universal healthcare system, and then there was a lot of people saying, "Don't do that because then Black people will get healthcare." I agree with you. There probably isn't racist people probably don't want these universal programs unless it's just specifically for them. I mean, how you also look at it, Charlie Kirk was talking to people who ostensibly would be against any type of universal program altogether, but also you see a lot of their probably parents or family members are recipients of these programs like food stamps, like Medicaid and things like that too. So I think there needs to be a mind shift within people, one, to put their personal prejudices that they have, to put that below actually making sure that everyone in the country actually has a certain standard of living. But I also think it comes with time of over us all just kind of seeing each other as living in a society together. And I don't know which has to happen first. Is it possible for all of us to come together to fight for these universal programs if we all still don't see each other as equal? Are we all actually going to fight for that working class agenda together? The one thing I do see kind of bringing, I don't really even seeing it bringing sides together. I see the genocide bringing people together, and kind of, I think that the two camps are working separately. I think the camp that is, this is a moral issue and we should not be funding it with our tax dollars, is separate from the, basically, we just don't want money to go to foreign countries at all crowd, in the MAGA crowd. I think they're fighting it from two different ends. I don't even know if those two separate ends are actually talking to each other to work together, per se.
I think that's fair, although Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is against support for Israel, has said that what Israel's doing is wrong. I mean, she's actually used the word genocide. So she's a right-winger who's used the word genocide, whereas Bernie hasn't.
No,
Ro
right.
Khanna hasn't. And
No,
Fuentes also, his criticism of Kirk was explicitly that as a Christian, he's supporting, I think he used the word, I don't have the clip up right now, but I think he said the deliberate slaughter of 2 million people. I'm pretty sure that was his words. So that is a moral, they're making it not just about our money going overseas, but I would use the money argument too. Why not? I mean, it's a good argument. We shouldn't be funding this, and it's especially evil, but it's also with our money. So I think those both go together. This is why I put that thumbnail together. Can Zoran and Bernie heal a wounded nation? Because I do believe that the policies that Bernie says he supports, doesn't always support them, but he says he supports. And if you get the mayor of New York, which I think at this point we're pretty clear Zoran will be, they can really push aggressively, if he can, to make life better for the people of the city. First of all, it's a couple of things. One, you mentioned how Black New Yorkers are not feeling the Zor, right? You feel the burn. They're not feeling the Zor, but they'll start feeling it if things get better, right? They'll start feeling it real quick.
Yep.
So if he can make life a little easier for everyone in New York City who doesn't make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year or more, I think that could be leveraged by other candidates around the country.
No, yeah, and even correcting what I said before, while older Black people are not supporting Zorhan, there is definitely a huge support and following when it comes to younger Black people. It's just older Black people, I feel like, are always kind of the stuck in centrism group now. And I think that comes from years and years and decades and generations of Black people in that older generation being told that basically you're not going to get anything like super left. So I need you to just be okay with what you get in that moderate fix. But also, I think that it just comes from the indoctrination of media. You look at the civil rights leaders who older Black people hold up as like just figureheads now. They are centrist too. So everyone who kind of talks to older Black people as far as media influence and all that are very centrist and corporate. So you're evidently gonna see a turn into more older people being in that conservative centrist group as well.
Well, it's certainly true for Jewish voters too in New York. I mean, the over 50 New Yorkers do not support Zoran by a very wide margin. Those under 40 absolutely do support him. So you're seeing the same breakdown in other communities as well. I think we've talked a little bit about Black voters, why they're more conservative in general. I mean, one reason is because they're so overwhelmingly Democrat. Democratic, that there's not a conservative, all the conservatives are in the same pile rather than some of them being in the Republican group who are the more conservative. So that would make the Democrats more to the left. But you have conservatives voting in Democratic primaries because they will not become Republican. But we are seeing a change, especially among African-American men. And what should be most troubling to the Democrats is younger voters are no longer by significant margin likely to register as Democrats. That's true, again, not by race, just period.
Oh, yeah.
Very frightening.
That should be scary for the Democratic Party. They should see it as their bases, I was going to say slowly, but actually in rapid speed crumbling. And I think the one problem is because we live in this almost two-party system where we have other parties, but it's just no one can really compete nationally. That when base Democrats decide not to vote, chances are they're not going to vote for a Republican. Chances are they're just not going to vote. So there needs to be a push to bring those people, whether it be over to the Green Party, whether it be over to PSL, whoever, there needs to find a home for them to go to so that they can build up something else.
Well, I'm pushing for the Green Party. That's what I keep doing here. This headline, I have very mixed feelings about. So here, I just checked this out this morning. I didn't know this happened yesterday. I was driving yesterday. Governor Hochul there in New York. Not a big surprise, to be frank with you, but she's certainly a centrist, maybe slightly to the left. She's to the left of, here's how you know how much of a leftist she is, Carlos. She is to the left of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, so she must be a centrist, I guess. So this, to me, is a huge coup, to be honest with you, for Zohran Mamdani, because there are voters in New York City, maybe it's only 3%, 5%, whatever, but they like Kathy Hochul. She's a popular governor. They view her as someone who stood up to Trump. She's not some crazy leftist. And if she says, I'm endorsing Zohran Mamdani, there are going to be, especially, I believe in that group we just talked about, the older voters, 50 to 75, 50 to 65, we're going to say, okay, that's good enough for me. I'll vote for him. Or maybe they were leaning against him, and now they're going to say, you know what? I'm not going to vote for Cuomo. I'm not going to vote for Eric Adams or Sliwa. So I think this is a big deal. But the flip side of that, and I want your comment, is I don't really like Kathy Hochul. If she likes Zohran, I don't know if I like him.
Right? It's like the enemy of my enemy shall not be my friend. So I don't. First of all, I have no praise for Kathy Hochul for endorsing Zohran, especially because I feel like we're this far late in the game. He decisively, handedly won the primary. Me personally, I don't get what positive Zohran gets from getting their support, just because if you won the primary in the outrageous numbers that you did, when all the support from corporatized media and just corporate elected officials was behind Cuomo, what's the point now of catering to a Kathy Hochul, catering to a Chuck Schumer, a Hakeem Jeffries? I don't really understand why the left is really, yes, call them out for not endorsing them. I wouldn't want their endorsement. There's no point. You endorsing Zohran at this point more so helps that elected official than it does help Zohran win.
I think that's a really good point. I don't disagree with you. I do think Hochul as a state leader, not a national, but a state, and one who I think is probably a little more to be honest with you, I bet she's more popular in New York State and New York City than, I don't think Jeffries and Schumer are not real popular.
No, I think they're just name stays.
So, and also Zohran has to work with the governor.
He does. He
doesn't really have to work with the senator and the House minority leader. He doesn't have to work with the Senate minority leader and the House minority leader, because both of them are so incompetent they can't keep win elections, despite this incredibly unpopular Republican at the top of the ticket. They can't even win. They're so bad at their jobs. But Hochul, people are going to say, well, the mayor has to work with the governor. And so now I'm glad she can work with him. So It's in the New York Times.
I mean, well, one thing I will say, and I hope that leftists don't kind of get this part misconstrued. I don't think Hochul is endorsing him to say that, hey, I'm willing to work with him or not. I think, if anything, Hochul's saying, I see the backlash Hakeem and Chuck are getting about not endorsing him. I'm also running for my reelection as or is she running for reelection or term limit? I'm not totally sure.
I think she's running for reelection. I believe.
Okay. So she could be saying, I'm running for reelection. So I need those same people who support him in this primary not to look at me and say, oh, I don't like the progressive side, so let me go ahead and endorse him. I see that as one claim. The second one, to your point, is I think that he has to work with her. So he need, like, when it comes to the free buses, he's going to need her support in that. He's going to need her support for a whole lot of things he wants to do. So he's going to have to make those concessions to work with her. I also want to say, does this change what kind of person he's going to be if he gets elected? Is he going to?
You wonder, right?
Moderate
were concessions made? Because we know that the lefties like AOC, Bernie, they demanded very strong concessions from Kamala to endorse her. Remember, they were at the DNC and then they said, you have to come out against Israel and you have to say you won't frack. Those were, they really held Kamala's feet to the fire to endorse her. I'm obviously being extremely sarcastic. So you do wonder, maybe the right plays this game a hell of a lot better than the left. Did Hochul? I do worry. I'm 100% with you. The so-called left, they fold like a cheap tent, right? I mean, you're not going to let a Palestinian speak? Oh, it's okay. I'll still endorse you. You're going to come out in favor of fracking? That's okay. We'll
support fracking.
You want to go to Michigan and say you're not go to tell Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims that you support Israel and it's, October 7th is the reason for what Israel's doing? Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Hang out with your bestie, your new bestie, Liz Cheney. That's okay. That's what Bernie and AOC said, and it worked out so well. I don't think Kathy Hochul's such a chump, but maybe she is.
Nah. I think if Kathy Hochul, I think for Kathy Hochul, if she endorses, either she is doing it out of her own necessity for herself in terms of her election, or she got something from him.
Yeah.
I don't think she's one of these people. I'm just endorsing because I support the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's something there, but I also think this is a big reason, which is what I just put on the screen from Jacobin. Democratic socialism is now mainstream. She's not stupid. She can read the writing on the wall. She knows that the policies he espouses are popular. And as you said, she wants to get reelected. Sure, I'll bend the knee a little bit. I'll move to the left. I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, same. Even to Jacobin, to this new poll by Jacobin, I guess after the Bernie 2016 and 2020 movement is kind of done and over with now, I am hesitant. I've always been hesitant now of this whole surge of like, more Democratic people are more to the left and all that, because I think what happened during Bernie Sanders, especially in 2016 and 2020, I don't think all of his supporters would define themselves as Democratic Socialists or even lefties. I think a lot of them were just regular people who just wanted healthcare. I think that it's easy to say that, Democratic Socialist is more popular now just because of the mainstream effect of Bernie Sanders and AOC. But as we saw with the No King stuff, with the Fight the Oligarchy tour, it's not really about policy. It's more just against, like, people see Democratic Socialists as people who will stand up to Trump and fight them. I don't think, and when it is about policy, they'll support the policy, but then they're not holding their elected officials to actually support that as well. It's more just a vibe type of thing. And I think that's the difference between the right and the left, where the right, when they win gains amongst their like base and just amongst people, they put policy behind it. When when broad left wins on an issue of more Democratic Socialists or just more just progressive people or base voters, they turn to just rhetoric and forget the policy part.
Well, I agree with you. And I think what the poll is saying is that the specific policies that we associate with democratic socialism are popular. Whether the label is, whether people will say, yes, I'm a democratic socialist, perhaps they won't. And the proof for that, I believe, is how they note even Republicans and independents do show support for certain egalitarian policy positions. For example, 70% say the economic system is rigged in favor of corporations and the wealthy, and that even includes 58% of Republicans. So they wouldn't say, I'm sure they're democratic socialists, but there's like, yeah, it's not fair. 59% of response, 58% of Republicans blame landlords and banks more than government regulation for the high cost of housing. So that is a total repudiation of the abundance argument, right? Ezra Klein, the whole thing is, oh, if they did, they have to build the houses on site and they have to have union labor. And it's so there's all these different environmental regulations you have to support. And they're like, no, that's a load of crap. Shut up. It's the landlords and the banks. So, which is true.
Yeah.
So if you had Democrats who say this, who were clear about it, I think that they would win elections.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. If they put policy behind rhetoric, then it would actually be a good thing for them. I think even if Republicans did it, I think that would be a good thing for Republicans too. And I'm not a fan of Democrat or Republicans, to be honest. I would say I think if the Green Party or PSL did it, it would blow up. The problem is PSL and the Green Party have been supporting this since their foundation. This is a normal thing for them. The problem is the major parties aren't doing it. And the problem that I see over and over and over again, because when I have conversations with people about the issue when it comes to housing, when it comes to the issue to healthcare and all that, they will agree with me on every single point. Then when you talk about who you're going to vote for, they say, oh, well, I don't want a Democrat or I don't want a Republican to win, so I'm just going to vote for this Democrat who doesn't have any of my values, but it doesn't matter because they see this almost as football. If my team doesn't win, then that means your team wins, and that's it.
This is really interesting. So here's some more from that poll. 83%, and I'm not ignoring what you're saying, but I'm trying to respond to it in a way I think is helpful. 83% of respondents agree that social work and mental health are necessary parts of a public safety budget. So they agree with Zoran and others on the far left who say, no, not so much money for police, more to help folks who are troubled, who are, who have mental health issues like that. Yeah. The murderer, the guy who killed the Ukrainian woman, right? And that's become a huge cause celeb on the right, because I think a big reason it was a black man killing a blonde woman on a subway. Or a bus, I guess it was a bus. It was a horrible murder. But the problem, it was hard. I mean, no one's going to defend like that crime. But the problem is this is somebody who needed to be institutionalized, who needed medication, we need much more support services. So the crime wouldn't have occurred in the first place. And Republicans get that. Republicans agree with that. 15%, this is what you're talking about. What you're saying, yeah, people still vote Republican. 15% of Donald Trump voters prefer, so they'll say, we prefer democratic socialism to capitalism, but we're still going to vote for Trump. They tend to be younger, non-white. I think a lot of that was Kamala refusing to break with Israel in any way. I think it was just flat out anger at the Democratic Party, and also a sense that the Democrat Party just stands for nothing. We'll vote for someone who stands for something, even if it's awful, over somebody who stands for nothing at all. Yeah.
And at least at that point, they make them feel good when they tell them that, hey, it's not your fault that you're in this economic situation you're like in. I'm not going to help you in it, but I know it's not your fault. Like, I'll give Donald Trump that. He knew when he goes around talking to people to make it sound like you are not the reason that you are in this pit that you're in economically. Now, he did he did blame other minority groups to say they're the reason why you're not doing well.
Immigrants, the biggest was immigrants, right?
Immigrants. He legit blamed immigrants for things that immigrants have nothing to do with at all. But you see, but one thing you saw was a spike in Republicans and Democrats supporting anti-immigration, which really came because, for better or for worse, when Donald Trump says this is the hottest topic right now we all should be talking about, Democrats move over to that issue and start focusing on it and start putting right conservative rhetoric on top of it. So I think that goes to why even Democrats and independents and people to the right don't believe Democrats when they talk, because Democrats did all this talk about how we need to abolish ICE, which I'm more and more as time goes on agreeing with, but also that the issues here when it comes to these like bad immigration policies and not actually creating a path to citizenship. The Democrats led on that in 2020. Then in the 2020 primary. Then you go to now of Democrats are the ones supporting anti-immigration legislation. You see people as like, so what do I believe? You look at even when it came to fracking during the 2020 primary, the majority of the Democratic Party was against fracking. The moment Joe Biden won the primary and started saying we're not getting rid of fracking, you saw more Democrats supporting fracking. So
right. The people follow the leader so often, and it's very disappointing. But they follow the leader in the Democratic Party because they're so terrified of Trump, and they, buy into Trump could be the downfall of the world, which isn't completely false, but it ignores the Democratic Party's complicity. So we have a couple of comments. I want to thank our commenters here. They're not very kind, however. Laura writes in response to the question, can Zoran and Bernie save us? The answer is no. Okay, well, maybe it is. And then Jesse with the lovely, this seems like two leftist idiots talking about two leftist idiots. Bernie had his chance and nobody wanted it. Zoran will be the downfall of New York. Well, let me just respond. First of all, a lot of people wanted Bernie. He came out of nowhere in 2016 and was polling much better than Hillary against Trump. And if he had gotten the nomination, he would have become president. So exactly. I'd hardly say nobody wanted it. A lot of people wanted it. That's not a good take. New York, you say Zoran will be the downfall of New York. New York got a lot of problems, and you can't blame those on Zoran. So to say he'll be the downfall,
Eric Adams is the downfall. New York's already
in a bit of a free fall right now. So if things turn around, it'll be because of Zoran, not in spite of him. So not a good take by Jesse. But hey, thank you for commenting. We really appreciate it.
Always great. I love the comments. One thing I'll say to that too is Eric Adams has been the downfall of New York City.
Yes,
Eric Adams has destroyed the city,
and Cuomo, is actually trying to with Cuomo's help. With
Cuomo's help. So I mean, we can already look at how New York has been kind of ravished. I would love to hear from, and you said Jesse. I would love Jesse to comment again and let us know what you think should be the saving grace to New York. And I'll say this too. I'm an unabashed leftist. I am totally to the left, because I feel like for so long we have lived in a society that has been very much not the people, but the elected officials and our representatives have been to the right. We have seen the hyping up of just trickle down economics. You see even how when you're talking about abundance is a Reaganistic type of ideology that says deregulation is the key to success. Jesse, we've been trying the right's way, and we've been trying the neoliberal, corporatized Democratic Party way. The way we haven't tried is an actual leftist way. And the last time that we did do anything type of leftist was the New Deal, which has led to the most popular government programs that there has ever been.
Yeah, 100% on that. We got a couple of other comments here. Art says that the Democrat media didn't cover the Charlotte murder because it was a black on white crime. So they don't cover, according to Art, black on white crime. I'm not aware of who was covering it, so I can't. That was the African-American mentally ill man who stabbed to death.
That was covered everywhere.
A North Carolina woman. I believe it was in Charlotte on a bus.
I mean, that was
she was Ukrainian. She was a Ukrainian woman.
Yeah, I heard about that on almost all the different news sites too. So I'm not sure who didn't cover it. I'll say that there are a lot of school shootings conducted by white people on not just black and brown people, but on other white people that we don't hear about. I mean, the same day that Charlie Kirk got shot was the same day there was a school shooting in Denver, Colorado. So
which got much less coverage. Exactly. And from Ari, finally, somebody I'm pretty much in agreement with, division is what is holding up everything. The disunited people works well for the privileged. Yes, that's true. according to Art again, let me just real quick and then we'll move on. Because I want to get to data centers. We've been going for an hour. It was covered in months late, and the story is broken by, I think he means to say the story was broken by right-wing media, including Charlie Kirk. Okay, that may be true. I'm going to do a little research on that. We're going to go over the hour because unless Carlos, you got to go, but otherwise,
nope, I'm good.
You've been covering what you've really been researching, and we haven't even gotten into it yet. Was data centers and the damage that they do. Well, I used AI to come up with the answer to that question. But let me just see this. I want to see about that because he said months, right? Let's see. When was that killing? I am trying to find when it occurred. I'm still struggling here to find a date. Maybe Art's got a point. Maybe it wasn't covered for quite a while. I don't know. This is such a one murder on one subway. Does that necessarily rate a huge amount of coverage? Okay, so it was the murder apparently occurred on August 23, 25. August 23, 25. So less than a month ago now. And I think that doesn't jibe with Art's take, which is, did he say it took them months to get to it? Maybe they didn't cover it right away.
I think you said it took it months. I mean,
it looks
August
like
23 is legit.
Right here.
2 weeks ago.
It was published on WCNC Charlotte, which is media, on August 23rd, a couple days after it occurred. So I don't know that it's fair to say it wasn't covered.
If we're being honest, as unfortunate as it sounds, that is what most people will consider a local incident, not a national news type of incident, because we look at all the shootings that happen every single day in this country. Just one, because of the amount of guns that we have. We don't know about every shooting that happens. We don't know about every stabbing that happens, every robbery, murder, because it's just not, it's so much that happens in this country that we can't cover it by news every single day nationally. And I mean, honestly, if Charlie Kirk wasn't this nationalized known figure and the same thing happened, I don't think we would know about it until weeks or months later.
Yeah, 100% on that. All right, Carlos, let's talk about the problem of data centers. And in the end, this is, we're facing ecocide right now because of our consumption of fossil fuels. And it seems clear that the data centers are going to exacerbate that problem. And both parties, right? Both parties bear the blame. Neither one is taking on big tech.
No. Data centers are something that if you live in actually I can't even say if you live in Prince George's County, because I know Charles County is also having conversations about the possibility of data centers coming. Prince George's is famously Prince George's is in a confrontation now where the residents do not want a data center coming, but there is a lot of push from data center from these tech companies and certain elected officials to bring the largest data center in Prince George's County to build the data center. And what we've seen from data centers they are basically sponges when it comes to electricity needs. They need electricity because you got to think a data center is technically a storage unit of computers, which means they are constantly running 24/7. So not only do they need electricity, they need high amounts of water to be able to cool those systems down at the same time. So they're a drain on electricity, on water, which means that the residents who live around those data centers now have to pay more for their utilities. Also, they cause noise pollution as well, and also because they take so much energy to actually use, they have been known to be using fossil fuels and coal and natural gas to actually provide the power. So they're also super carbon makers as well. So basically there hasn't been much positive, and they can also say the return on investment of data centers is bad too, because since these are basically computers, they don't hire a bunch of people to work at data centers. So when they come to your community, there almost are like no benefits to it, because on top of that, you have legislators who throughout the country are looking at giving subsidies to these data centers to come. And they remind me so much of football fields and stadiums, that whenever a stadium comes, you see all the elected officials roll out the red carpet. Look at DC when it comes to the RFK Stadium. They wanted the Commanders so badly. They are putting public dollars into updating the RFK Stadium, when at the same time DC is also saying we're having a budget crisis at the same time, but the Commanders is owned by a billionaire. So we're literally subsidizing billionaires to be able to make their life more comfortable.
It's funny because the people who call are so upset about socialism, but they have no problem with taking public money, and some. But again, we're seeing Democrats do this too. So the whole situation is just so awful. What should we be doing about data centers? I mean, they're a problem, but we keep, like, I thought the irony was, hey, I'm using AI to tell us what's wrong with AI. Yeah. So, I'm obviously part of the problem. So what do we do? What's the right answer?
I think there needs to be, honestly, a look at how we use AI and how we use data. I think one thing that's not as drastic as like just shutting down AI altogether is data regulation. One, the reason that we need so much data centers is because there's also so much data being collected from us. In a lot of situations, a lot of people don't know the amount of data that is actually being collected from them at any given time. I think that there needs to be a reduction in how much data these companies can take from us. I think there needs to be a reduction in the data that they're able to take. I think there needs to be regulation when it comes to AI, because one thing that we're seeing with these companies is that AI is taking your data, and they have the right in a lot of instances to go to the police without even letting you know and giving them information about the conversations that you've been having with these platforms and systems as well. I think there should be community benefit agreements that if a data center comes to your community, that your community is going to share in the profits from that tech company as well, because they're already profiting off of us.
Well, they give them huge tax subsidies, right? They should be I'm sure they would say, well, we negotiate and we get something for the community, but it's hard to know what that would be. The land, real estate values tend to go up because there's fewer homes, so it's harder to live in the neighborhood. People are priced out of it. And as you said, the quality of life also declines in the area because they're ugly. For one thing, they're these hideous buildings if you see them. And then you said there's noise as well, Carlos?
Yep. You have a noise pollution from the running of those computers 24/7 in these huge buildings. They create noise in the area as well and cause noise pollution. So then you have people not even being able to enjoy their community as they should either. I honestly think any community, one data centers should probably be more pushed to areas that don't have people living in them. And then two, I think there needs to be, if there are going to be data centers, these tech companies have to basically be coming out of their profit and giving it to the residents there, almost as like a compensation, saying, thank you for allowing us to even be here. Here is here is money. Basically, the company needs to pay off the people to allow them to be there.
I would like to see, Carlos, honestly, at this point, I think this is really, it should be just a utility. It should be, we need government takeover of a lot of this stuff. Maybe not, and break up the company. If you're not going to take them over, at least they're just way too big. They've totally corrupted our democracy. Facebook, Microsoft, obviously, Amazon. Those
Google.
Are the big names, right? Google. Yeah. No, they need to be broken up.
Yeah. And I mean, even going past that too, I'm not sure how much this has to do with data centers, but you look at even people's email addresses being like sold. I was watching a video a few days ago that was talking about how you literally have, anytime you sign up for anything at all, those same companies can sell your email and data that they have on you to these third-party companies. So now they have data. They have to collect all that data too. So it's so much of our information that's just being shared by these companies that they're just profiting off of. If we're not going to get the profit, at least, like you said, put it under government regulation or just government ownership, so that certain parts of the data that we have are just non-usable or doesn't need to be used. So there's no need for these data centers as well.
Well, there's so much duplication. I was thinking about that too. Like a lot of this is driven by our own, the way we use tech, because we send out emails and we keep them on our in our inbox for years, or we keep them in our sent box for years. That's not necessary. And then they're in some other box. So I'm actually trying to just download stuff and put it on my hard drive. So at least it's not on the internet
Nice.
so much, because that would reduce it a little bit. But yeah.
One last thing to this too, is that I would love to see when they talk about putting these data centers in communities, don't just keep going to your low income communities. Don't keep going to your black and brown communities thinking that, oh, we can put this here in either the black and brown or the low income white neighborhoods. Let's just put a data center there and ruin their environment and sustainability of their community. Start putting it in these wealthier communities and start saying, fine, if you all want to keep all the wealth near you all, you're going to start having most of the destruction be in your neighborhood too. And then we'll see if we see a change in people advocating against these data centers.
All right, you're talking about a problem specifically in Maryland. I mean, I know it's around the country, but your focus has been Prince George's County and communities in this state, which is a Democratic state. It's a Democratic governor. They got a Democratic trifecta. Are there leaders in the Democratic Party who are fighting for the communities that are, will be taken advantage of by big tech?
Yeah, I would say definitely tell people to look at when it comes to Prince George's County Council. I know you've had members like Crystal Oriata and Walla Bulgay specifically who've been coming out and talking against these data centers coming, and really listening to a lot of the community that's been talking bad about them, or not talking bad about them, but pointing out some of the destructive things that come along as side effects from these data centers as well. I would also point to organizations and groups like PSL, who has been really on the forefront when it comes to pushing back for these data centers. They recently had a rally, or a rally a few days, like a couple of weeks ago, about the data centers, and then also had a teach-in town hall yesterday covering the data centers, why they are coming to Prince George's County, the implications of it, how you can push back. There's right now a task force that Prince George's County has set up to look into data centers, and I know that there's a bill that was sponsored by Walla Bulgay to basically halt all permitting and all moving forward of data centers until a report comes out from this task force that looks at the positive, negative implications, all that, of data centers first. So there are some things that are moving forward. My problem with all of this is that these smaller, more rural communities and even suburban communities, when I think of Charles County, that doesn't get a whole lot of media or attention. A lot of people are concerned about that data centers will be coming to Charles County too, which is a small community that doesn't have a lot of media. So a lot of people aren't kind of at the forefront knowing what's going on. And a lot of times too, these data centers move forward without any public pushback or knowledge, because it's not emphasized to the public. And the politicians like it that way because they would rather something happen quietly.
Exactly. And the data centers are owned by the same people who own the media, who also own the politicians.
Yeah.
So,
and then, you know what else just kills me, Hal, is that we literally have politicians who are selling out their own communities for these data centers, but at the same time, it's not even like they're getting a lot of payoff from these companies either, because then you look at some campaign finance, and given I haven't done it with data centers yet, but I've done it with other topics, and I've seen that the contributions could be as low as like a couple $100 to like $3,000 to your campaign, and you're willing to shell out your whole community to a corporation for a couple $1,000s. And the company is profiting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars off of your community. So it's like there is no benefit to even the politicians for doing these towards their own people, other than their hope is I take some of that money and then you all never find out about it.
Right.
So you'll still vote for me and I'm all the wiser.
Well, there's also, I think, an implied threat. If you don't go along with what we're doing, we will bankroll an opponent. We will conduct, oppo research. We're going to find something in your record and we're going to crush you with it.
Yeah.
So it's not just where they pay you. It's not just bribery. It's also extortion.
Yeah.
And this is where I start to really just get hopeless, Carlos. Like, to just say the system is so bad, it's so corrupt. There's just no way we're going to be able to solve this. And even with someone like Azorn, who I do like and I respect to a degree, we're seeing already where he's compromising on issues like the whole globalizing intifada, which is a powerful term which brings people together. And he's saying, well, I'm going to discourage its use. Now, I know there's always been this position, but it just feels like there's no one who is, going to just champion people and put aside their own selfish interests. It's very, very dispiriting. It's very sad.
Yeah, I've been finding hope mostly in that word is even funny to use, hope. But I've been finding kind of more, I guess, hope in the fact of more localized candidates outside of like the New York, because New York City is just such a huge city and it becomes more almost like a national race. I try to look at just communities. How I would even encourage you to talk to some of the people running for city council around Maryland who've been endorsed by DSA in certain situations. I think in Gaithersburg there are there's a candidate who's endorsed by DSA for city council. There's a woman running for mayor as well who's very progressive.
I've met with them both. I have.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't really focused on those races. I probably should. I have focused on the Montgomery County Council race involving someone we both know, Zola. And I certainly support Zola. Yeah, I certainly support her. I think she's probably going to win, but
good.
She's getting backing from Will Jawando and from Kristen Mink, and to me, they're better than the run-of-the-mill Dem by a goodly margin, but they're also compromised. So it worries me that she also will, because it's so hard. And this is not because I love Zola, as a person, I think she's a great person, and I would vote for her. I can't vote for her. She's not my district. But you're in a barrel of rotten apples. It's pretty hard not to be tainted by those apples all around you.
No, you're right. It's if you're there, anytime you are elected, unless, and this is a small chance that it's not going to work like this, you almost have to deal with a certain amount of pressure. And either you come into it with your like, I don't really care how long I'm here. I don't care about what kind of pressure I get. I'm going to act accordingly to myself. And if you aren't like that, to a point, you are going to kind of have to get along with certain things. And I think it's a disgusting thing that people have to do. I think it is very few people like a Kashama Sawant in Seattle who legit said, I will be on the side with the people, but then we're going to force the other people to do the right thing. And I think you need to have people in office who have that mindset of, I may get in there by myself and I'd be the only one talking the way I talk, but we're going to have enough people behind us where we're going to make the other politicians, even if they don't want to vote the right way.
Well, that's the hope. And so far, not so good, right? So far, things are. Before I let you go, I got to. Well, you always get the last word. All my guests always get the last word. But before I give you your last word, I have a question. I hear an argument that, and here I'll put this. Here's our slide. I hear an argument that, well, this is the way things are. It's always been like this. It's too bad. It sucks. But, you have enough. You're comfortable. Your family's okay. So make the best of it. Enjoy life anyway. How would you respond to that? There's probably some truth to that, but is that true? Is this just the way it is and it's always going to be like this and there's nothing we can do about it?
Oh, not at all. I think that one, I think if we have that mindset, then you're already defeating yourself before even getting ready to go out into the battlefield. I mean, you have to come from the perspective that you're going to win, and even if you don't win, then you have to think of it as, I'm just setting myself up for next time when I do win. I think that honestly, the real reasoning behind it is that we actually haven't been this way for a very, very, very long period of time. When you look back in a history of even this country, you used to have representatives in office who actually fought for the people who they represented. Now, did everyone have their little quirks or their kind of bad ideology or kind of their moments of being horrible politicians? Yes, everyone does. But before things like Citizens United, you had more elected officials who actually represented their constituency more. I think now we as voters, because Citizens United has been the law of the land for so long, we need to do more work to tell our elected, not just tell them, to make sure every candidate who runs in a race knows, if you are taking money from anyone other than just ordinary people, then you do not have my support. And I think that we as people, we have to stand 10 toes down on that, because what happens every single time is a politician will come to us and say, if it's not me, it's going to be someone worse. And I think we need to reject that. I need all of the people to the left of Charlie Kirk, to bring it back full circle. I need all those people to stand 10 toes down and say, I don't care who the opposition is. I'm going to make sure that I'm voting for someone that reflects my values, because the right does that. The right will put up someone in their primary, even though they know that they're not going to win because they don't share their values. But at the same time, at the end of the day, they will say, because they share my values, I will support them. And I'll tell people just like this. None of us thought in 2016 Trump had a chance of winning. Everyone said Hillary will win, Democrats are going to win for sure. But because his base said, no, we believe in this man so much, even as wrong as they were to believe it in him, they made sure he won. I need the left to do that with our candidates. Don't do it for the corporatized candidate who, at the end of the day, you have to hold your nose to vote for. If you have to hold your nose to vote for them, that means chances are you probably shouldn't be voting for that person.
It also means they're probably not going to win, because there's a lot of people who are going to look at that person and say they're just terrible. I'm just not going to vote for him, period. It's not that I'm going to hold my nose, which is really what you saw with Hillary. And to a much greater degree, even with Kamala. And I don't say Kamala was a worse candidate than Hillary, because I think Hillary was a terrible candidate. But, there was some good vibes, some goodwill left over from Obama, and she was his candidate. And there was a hope that, a woman candidate got, I don't know. It's really, we're in a bad space. We're in a bad place.
We are. I mean, we're also at the late stage of, I think, this country's version of capitalism, where I think the curtain may be closing on this country a little bit, to where we're not going to be the superpower.
That's why we say Ken Zorn and Bernie, if they can lead truly progressive populist candidates to victory and start implementing policy on the local level, state level, maybe ultimately federal, we can. I hope we can turn this Titanic around before it plows into that iceberg. But we may already have gone into the iceberg. The question is, can they bail fast enough to get us into safety boats? I don't know.
I don't know either how. It's going to be it'll be fun watching each season until we find out what the final episode is.
Don't forget, click subscribe. I'm going to give you that subscribe thing one more time. Click like, join us on, do the Facebook. But a lot of it's been pretty, it's been hard sledding on the Facebook page. A lot of negativity, a lot of aggressive commentary. I'm really trying to police it. I'm just fighting tooth and nail. And personal insults are absolutely off you'll get immediately removed if you anything that's includes personal insults against people on the page will be removed. You attack a politician, I'm much more likely to leave it up. I'm not big on the videos. I'd much prefer people's personal opinions. They state what their opinion rather than someone else's. And if you block me as an admin, I'm going to remove you. So you better unblock me, because some people figured it out, and it took me a while. What I did is I create alternative egos so I can see everybody's post, but I'm not going to do that anymore. If you block me because you don't want me to see what you're posting so you can leave it up there, I'm going to block. I'm going to ban you. I'm not going to play these games. I want people to feel safe. I want them to have vibrant, spirited debate. I blame myself for not always following my own rules. I'm going to strive harder to do that, to not make anything personal, but we're going to be policing it because I just don't want the hate. I just won't have it. I just won't have the hate.
There you go.
Carlos, anything from you? Final word from Carlos Childs, writer, activist, and podcaster to be.
Yeah, soon to be podcaster. Just look out. I'm definitely going to come back on to announce some podcasts and everything. How definitely going to have you on. And one thing to look forward to is I definitely want to have you on to talk about the whole Taylor Lorenz Wired article, just about money going to Democrats and all that. I'm just looking forward. I'm looking forward to it all. I'm looking forward to this election cycle coming up to just see the craziness that comes out of our politicians and supporters of them.
Wow. You're looking forward to it. I'm dreading it. Honestly, I really am. But we'll see. I guess I'm kind of looking forward to November 4th because I do have cautious optimism that Mom Donnie will win, and I do.
Hey, Hal, before I go too, also look into the Minneapolis, Minnesota race because they have a Democratic Socialist there as well.
Omar, I think is his name. Omar something. I know I haven't been good on that one. I should. And the Democrats also pull the same stunt there where they won't support him. Yeah. All right, we'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow. Tuesday is an Arlen Tuesday. Always great to have Carlos with us, and enjoy your day. Thanks for being part of Halitics.
See y'all.